Good morning to everyone. We're excited to have you join us today for the Quiet Quit. This is our third webinar this year for 2023, and we have a great lineup for this morning. And once again, thank you for participating. We look forward to a very fruitful and robust webinar. So we're going to start our session. Human capital is our basically is a corporation that is the one that is managing this webinar. It's one of a corporation that I founded 2019, and really what we do is we provide risk management solutions to small businesses, really focusing on education, and this is one of the components of what we do. So we also partner with the SoCal Growth Partners. They have done a wonderful job. We have a partnership with John Gutierrez, the president, and really what our partners here do is they really work together with the business community and empower small businesses, everything from financing to business education to facilitation for just their growth. So excellent partnership, and we want to thank SoCal Corporate Growth Sponsors for their participation in today's event. There's a proverb, and as many people know, I enjoy the proverbs and like to talk about them. It says, "The one who preserves understanding will prosper." And what that means is that those that understand get understanding of what's happening in their lives, in their businesses, will prosper. And it's also, in other words, a safeguard. So it's important to understand the times, understand where we're at, and the culture is definitely changing. The business climate is changing tremendously. So hopefully we can preserve some of the understanding today and use it for your business to help you continue to navigate through these turbulent waters and truly changing times. One of our upcoming seminars is going to be the utilization. The topic is utilization of emotional intelligence in the workplace. Alfonso Garcia, we're excited to have him join our team, and he will be presenting that in our upcoming seminar. So anything that you didn't catch, and those that maybe join us a little bit late, can find us on the YouTube channel at under Human Capital Management. This one will be recorded. This seminar will be recorded shortly after, and probably be on in about 2 days. Okay, today's webinar agenda: exempt versus non-exempt, employees, emotional intelligence, the quiet quitting. So these are the three topics. We plan on covering each one. Last time in our last seminar, we had talked about exempt versus non-exempt. There was a lot of questions, and Richard Concepcion is going to kind of briefly finish that off, that sequel. We wanted to not leave it open-ended. So with that, I want to ask Richard to, Richard, welcome, good morning, and look forward to finishing this off.
Good morning. Thank you, Javier. So I'll be briefly talking about exempt versus non-exempt employees. Go ahead to the next slide, please. My name is Richard Concepcion. I'm an enrolled agent. I've got over 20 years of experience with government as a tax and business consultant. And this is a very important topic, mostly because, well, it could cost you money. That's the bottom line, isn't it? Let's go ahead to the next slide. So we'll start right off with a question. If you pay an employee a salary, this is a true or false question. If you pay them a salary, you do not have to pay them overtime. That is that time and a half. Is that true or false? Well, let's go to the next slide and find out. Turns out it's false. Even if an employee is not paid on an hourly basis, but rather is paid a salary, they could potentially be entitled to overtime pay. Now, let's talk about that really quickly. What is overtime? Most people know about the federal component, that is the 40 hours per week. So if you work over 40 hours, then the federal law says that you must pay them overtime. Now, there's an additional component that we have to worry about, and here in the state of California, it's 8 hours per day. So someone could theoretically only work 36 hours for the week, but if they worked over 8 hours in one day, then the state mandate says that you have to pay them overtime for that one day that they paid. Now, this, once again, we need to make sure that we are very clear on this, because overtime claims can go back 3 years. Okay, so if we can go to the next slide. There we go. California labor law stipulates that employees are generally entitled to rest and meal periods, as well as additional compensation when they work overtime. So an exempt employee is someone who is exempt from the rest, meal periods, and overtime laws. That's why it's extremely important to know who is exempt and who is not exempt, because you have to follow the California law. So let's go ahead to the next slide. So in California, there is a presumption that, first off, all employees, we're going to presume that all employees are entitled to overtime compensation. Now, this presumption can be defeated if employees in question come within the exemptions set forth in the Industrial Welfare Commission orders. Now, these Industrial Welfare Commission orders are something that should be posted. That's part of the workplace postings. There are one of 17 orders that you have to look up as a business owner and find out which IWC applies to your industry. And if the very first section, they deal with this. So that's how important it is. It pretty much earns its right to be right at the top of these things. So let's go ahead to the next slide. So if you look at the top of the IWCs, and it goes into this idea of salary exempt versus non-exempt employees, it says that you basically have to pass 2 tests to be exempt. One is the salary test, and what that is that person has to make at least twice the minimum wage. Okay, so that's the salary test. The second test that they have to pass is the duty test, and that is what duties are they performing throughout the course of their work. So they either have to be executive, administrative, or professionals. So executives, we're looking at people who pretty much carry out the day-to-day operations of the business. They have to manage at least 2 people, and they have to do something different than what everybody else in the company does as far as like your laborers, at least 50% of the time. So be careful with that. If you have somebody that was previously in charge of 10 people and you had layoffs or whatever, and now they're only in charge of 1 person, they technically don't qualify for that duty test. So be very aware of that. Administrative people are people who make business decisions throughout the company. You know, are we going to take out a loan? Are we going to hire and fire? So and so forth. Now, professionals, there's a list right on the Industrial Welfare Commission orders. These are people like doctors and lawyers and things that have, or people that have an advanced degree, usually above and beyond a bachelor's degree. There's some sort of advanced training involved. So these are typically the people that you can go ahead and say, no, you're exempt from the overtime rules. You pay them a salary, and as long as you meet the salary test and the other stipulations, for the most part, you'll be okay. Let's go ahead and go to the next slide. All right, that's pretty as simple as I can make it. Obviously, there's a lot more to it. If you want more information, you can go to the Industrial Welfare Commission order. You can look at that first section. And of course, as always, you can always reach out to me. And there's my contact information, and I'd be glad to talk about it further with you. Thank you.
Richard, great. I know that we put you under a timeline. I'm going to give you A+ because you finished on time. Thank you for that insight. For anybody that missed it, this is going to be on YouTube. But Richard's information is there. Take a picture of it, or you can feel free to contact me. You can put it on the chat, and we can get you connected with Richard. Richard, gracias. Thank you once again. We're going to move on now. I'm excited to have and introduce a new team member, Alfonso Garcia. Alfonso's, I've known him for a couple of months now, and he's become a friend and admire just his trade, his craft, does a wonderful job. He's a MFT, a marriage family therapist, but he's also, what interests me most is that he's a certified life coach and a corporate consultant. He's also a professor at Whittier College. So we're very happy to have him on board. And we were talking about just the necessity with today's changing environment with the new generation in the workforce? How do you manage in the need to have that management team themselves having this emotional intelligence and understanding what that really means? So we see the word a lot. So Alfonso, thank you for joining us this morning. I'm going to see if we have you. Maybe we have you on mute, and we have to unmute you. Let's give me a minute.
There we go.
There we go.
All
Yeah.
right. Well, thank you for that introduction, Javier. Is everybody, good morning, everybody. My name is Alfonso, and I've got about 5 minutes I'm going to try to do this in to quickly introduce you to one of my favorite subjects, which is emotional intelligence. So here we go. So as we stay on this slide, I want to talk about what is emotional intelligence. Emotional intelligence is defined as the ability to understand and manage your own emotions, as well as recognize and influence the emotions of those around you. The term was first coined in 1990 and made popular by psychologist Daniel Goleman. Many people at that time believed that IQ, or intelligence, was the determining factor for success. But researchers were just puzzled when studies found that people with average IQs performed better than those with high IQs 70% of the time. Research finally found that emotional intelligence was the missing link, the critical factor in determining a person's long-term success. Goleman told the Harvard Business Review that, quote, "The most effective leaders are all alike in one critical way. They all have a high degree of what has come to be known as emotional intelligence." It's not that IQ and technical skills are irrelevant. They do matter, but they are the entry-level requirements for executive positions. Over the years, emotional intelligence, also known as EQ, has evolved into a must-have skill. Research by TalentSmart show that emotional intelligence is the strongest predictor of performance, and hiring managers have taken note. 71% of employees surveyed by CareerBuilder said they value EQ over IQ, reporting that employees with high emotional intelligence are more likely to stay calm under pressure, resolve conflict effectively, and respond to coworkers with empathy. So let's go to the next slide. There are 4 components in emotional intelligence. The first component is self-awareness, which refers to the individual's ability to recognize and understand their own emotions, as well as the impact those emotions have on their thoughts, behaviors, and relationships. Individuals who possess high levels of self-awareness are often better to manage their own emotions and respond effectively to the emotions of others. In contrast, individuals who lack self-awareness may struggle to manage their emotions, may be less effective at communicating with others, and may have difficulty achieving their personal and professional goals. Next slide. Self-management. This refers to an individual's ability to regulate their own emotions and behaviors in a productive and adaptive manner. Individuals who possess strong self-management skills are often able to remain calm and focused under pressure and better equipped to handle stress and difficult situations. Those that struggle with self-management may be prone to impulsivity, difficulty controlling their emotions, and may struggle to achieve their goals. Next slide. Social awareness is the third component, and this refers to an individual's ability to recognize and understand the emotions and needs of others. Individuals who possess strong social awareness skills are often able to take perspective of others and to understand how different people may have different emotional responses to the same situation. Those with a lack of social awareness skills may have difficulty communicating effectively or building positive relationships and prone to conflicts in social situations. And the fourth component, the next slide, is relational awareness. And this refers to an individual's ability to manage and navigate their relationships with others in a productive and positive manner. It involves being able to effectively communicate with others, build trust and rapport, and manage conflict and disagreement. Those that are that have a lack of relationship awareness struggle with communication, may be prone to misunderstandings, and struggle to build trust with others. So what are the benefits of emotional intelligence? Next slide. First one, enhanced self-awareness. Leaders with strong emotional intelligence are able to understand their own emotions and behavior patterns, which can help them identify areas for personal and professional growth and development. Next slide. Conflict resolution. Leaders with strong emotional intelligence are able to identify and manage conflicts effectively, helping to create a more harmonious and productive work environment. Next, increased empathy. Leaders who are empathetic are better able to understand the needs and concerns of their team members, which can help them create a more positive and supportive work culture. Next, enhanced self-awareness. Leaders with strong emotional intelligence are able to understand their own emotions and behavior patterns, which can help them identify areas for personal and professional growth and development. Next, increased motivation and engagement. Leaders who are able to connect with their team members on an emotional level are more likely to inspire motivation and engagement, helping to create a more productive and positive work environment. And as we see on this slide, there's some added benefits for business. One, better leadership, improved teamwork, increased sales and customer service and satisfaction, better decision-making, and increased employee engagement and retention. Last slide. So as we can see, the overall, there you are. The overall intelligence can be a valuable asset for leaders, helping them to build strong relationships with the team members, making better decisions, and create a more positive work environment. So there's a quick introduction of the power of emotional intelligence. And I think my 5 minutes are up, Javier, so back to you.
Excellent, excellent. And thank you so much. I know that was, you're one of the first speakers that makes it on time. Thank you so much. But a lot of things, a lot of power-packed information. That's why I'm going to have Alfonso. The next webinar will be on this, and it'll be tied into the workplace. And he's available for any consultation. If you're he does training with businesses and management leaders. So if anybody needs his information, put it on the chat or just reach out to me, and we could definitely get you in communication. Thank you once again.
Thank you, Javier.
So thank you so much. We're going to move on again for the sake of time, real quick. Now we want to go into our main section, which is the quiet quitting. We talked about it last time, and just the dynamics behind that. So without too much more delay, I want to introduce our dear friend Carmen Torres, who's going to lead this session. Carmen, good morning.
Good morning, Javier.
Great to have you.
Thank you. It's always a pleasure to connect with you and all of your amazing listeners.
We're excited to hear. So tell us, the quiet quitting, it's a term that's been coined, it's been used a lot. Tell us, what is it about, and how does it impact the workplace?
Absolutely. We're going to spend a little bit of time on this, so if we can just go on to the next page, please. So what we're going to cover today is, what is quiet quitting? We're going to learn about just recognizing the signs of quiet quitting, how to build a positive company culture, and really to be able to create a sense of purpose. We're also going to leave a little bit of time at the end for some Q&As, but I also invite you to just put your Q&As in the chat. If at some point I'm able to take a peek at that and able to answer the questions as I'm going along, I will do so. Otherwise, Maylee will help me at the end of our session today, and we'll make sure to answer your questions. So first, however, we can go to the next slide. As always, we must first give you our disclaimer, right? That this webinar is actually intended to provide just a general discussion for business owners and managers. It is not intended to provide legal advice because remember that each situation is different, which is why you want to consult with either your attorney or with my HR specialist to be sure that you receive the best advice for your specific situation. Next slide. So quiet quitting really has been a huge buzzword in the workplace lately. Many of you have probably even seen it on TikTok. There are many TikTokers who are talking about it. They're just not happy about what's happening in the workplace for them. And although quiet quitting sounds like it refers to someone that's resigning from their position, it's actually describing a rebellion against the hustle culture that's been going, about going above and beyond the call of duty, above and beyond what their job requires. And frankly, it has many employers wondering why no one's answering their phones after 5 o'clock, no one's answering emails after 5 p.m., or even why no one wants to work overtime. No one's taking overtime or taking an extra shift like they used to. So what we've noticed is that after 19, many things have shifted. Not only did it disrupt everyone's lives with restrictions and perhaps even a lockdown, as many described it, but it's also made many people rethink their career choices. And which is why we've seen so many changes. People who were once, doing management for 30 years or so, or even for 10 years, and now shifting into roles that don't require them to be responsible for too many things. So this all occurred during what was known as the Great Resignation, which is actually a topic which we discussed with Javier last year. And so not only are people resigning from their positions, but they also want to limit their workloads. We can go to the next page. Great.
Yeah.
Right there. Perfect. So quiet quitting doesn't mean that an employee has left their job, but rather that it has limited their tasks to those that are strictly within their job description to avoid working longer hours. They want to do what's the bare minimum to get the job done. They're setting some very clear boundaries to improve their work-life balance. And I'm sure many of you have heard of that coming, that has come up quite a bit, work-life balance, right? And that's a whole other topic in of its own, but that's what a lot of employees are looking for right now. And these employees are just still fulfilling their job duties, but not subscribing to that work is life culture the way we used to many years ago. And what's happening is that they're no longer really doing that extra work to try to stand out in front of their supervisors. They stick to what's in their job description. And when they get home, they actually just go home, leave the work behind and focus on their non-work duties and activities. A lot of people have been taking up yoga, for example, and being out with their kids. So it's really changing the way employees are looking at work. Next slide, please. So quiet quitting could be a sign that an employee is not happy in their position or that they're experiencing burnout. It's also a way for many employees to deal with burnout. This is just the way they deal with it. This is what helps them alleviate stress. And it may also mean that they're ready to change positions or perhaps even looking for another job right now as we speak. This is definitely something that can be happening in your workplace. Next page, please. So during the Great Resignation, employees started thinking about their careers, how much they were earning or how much they were being treated, or how they were being treated at work rather. Lack of advancement opportunities, low pay, and feeling disrespected were the top reasons why Americans quit their jobs in 2021. These are situations where employees were feeling like, I've been working here for a long time, or we haven't brought in new employees that were laid off because of COVID-19, and now I'm taking on more work. How am I being compensated? Employees are just feeling that their employers didn't care. This is definitely something that has impacted the workplace. Employers were probably feeling like, we have lost a lot of business. We've had to let go of a lot of employees, whether it's a restaurant or, any kind of a convenience store. Products have gone up, the pay that we have to spend on extra products, whether it was tomatoes, lettuce, whatever it may have been for restaurants. It just doesn't make sense for employers, to have, for them, what it was doing is that it was causing them to minimize how they brought in employees or how much they were able to pay employees. But at the end of the day, we have to think about what's important, right? And if you're still serving your customers, we've got to make sure that employees also feel appreciated so that you don't lose them. So these are some of the very common reasons that come up during my exit interviews with employees who resign. And you can improve employee retention by recognizing the signs of quiet quitting before it's too late. So let's talk a little bit more about that. Next slide, please. So signs of quiet quitting can take on various forms depending on the employee's reasons for wanting to pull back on the work. And if an employee is truly unhappy, then the signs must be maybe much more noticeable than someone with a simple goal of wanting a better work-life balance. So what can happen is that you may see employees that they are not attending meetings. And this could be even just Zoom meetings if you have employees who are working remotely. This could be employees even arriving late to meetings or canceling meetings, arriving late to work, leaving early. And really what we've been finding is that employees are really using the time, taking time as they wish. What we're seeing is that many employees, like in the past, they were actually requesting time off and waiting for their supervisor to approve their time off before they took the time off. Now there's been a little bit of a shift. What we're getting is we're getting an email message that says, hey, by the way, I'm going to be off on such and such date. I need to take time off for myself, or I have a doctor's appointment, or I have an event that I'm going to be attending with my child. So it really has shifted a lot, and managers are struggling with how to deal with that situation. How is it that I can have 5 employees who all want to be out at the same time, but then how do I get the work done? Do I have to allow the employee to take the time off, or can I say no to them? So these are new issues that employers are having to address, right? There's a reduction in productivity. Why is that happening? It's happening because employees are taking a little bit longer to package items, for example, where maybe in the past, they were hustling and, trying to do as much productivity as they could to get the job out. And now it might be taking them even 50% longer. They're taking longer breaks, or perhaps even just taking their breaks, where before what we found is, unfortunately, some employees weren't taking their 10-minute or 15-minute breaks, and they were just working straight through because of their level of commitment. That's what we were seeing. We were seeing that employees were so committed that they weren't even taking their breaks, although I don't encourage that. That's again another topic. But what we're seeing is that employees are definitely taking the breaks, even taking longer breaks, and which is the reason why we're seeing less productivity, chopping vegetables, or chopping meat, whatever it may be at the type of business that you have. They are contributing less to team projects. In the past, again, we saw individuals who were giving their ideas on a regular basis, perhaps even researching how to contribute better toward the project, how to improve the timelines on certain things that they were doing. And employees are just no longer going above the call of duty. We're hearing about a lot of employees mentioning, oh, well, that's not in my job description, right? How many of you have heard that being mentioned quite a bit? It's, yeah, well, that's not part of my job description. Oh, am I going to receive additional pay for taking on these extra duties, which are not on my job description? So again, these are things that we are hearing quite a bit They're not participating in planning or in meetings. And it's just simply a lack of passion or enthusiasm. Employees are, just no longer giving 100% like they were. We can go on to the next slide, please. So the biggest way to prevent disengagement is to improve the employee experience. What you want to do is you want to talk to your employees, gather their feedback and discuss what can be done to make them feel appreciated. I recommend even having a survey, for example, that you might be able to put together to see what are employees looking for. Ask them about projects, let them know what projects are coming up, ask them if they have any ideas about how to better improve the project. And if it's something, a project, for example, or something in a restaurant, perhaps, and maybe if even in the chat, if there's, I'm not sure, I want to make sure that we're addressing certain situations. So if there's anyone who would like just to kind of let us know what service industry you're in, that way I can be sure to address some of those situations. But let's just say, for example, that even in a restaurant environment, in the past, we had your servers who were addressing or serving certain clients, and you want them to be able to serve more individuals, or you want the time of the service to be a certain time. Connect with them and ask them, how could we better serve our customer? How could we make sure that when our customers leave our restaurant, that they will be happy, that they will want to come back? So ask your employees, how they can better improve the service at your place of business. Talk to them, right? Gather and get that feedback. Ask what would make them feel appreciated. Many employees talk about, just not even having a thank you from their employer, from their boss, from their manager, their supervisor, from their lead. And so something as simple as like, hey, thanks for picking up that table for me. I really appreciate that. That makes such a difference. And if it's in, the office, for example, it might be, hey, thank you for submitting that report on time. I really appreciate it. It makes a big difference for us. So again, just thank them. Thank them for the little things that they're doing. Be realistic in the workload. How much work are you giving someone? And is it possible for them to be able to have the additional workload that you need them to take care of? Or, do you need to consider to hire a part-time person so that the workload remains realistic for the employee? Or, for example, in a restaurant environment, right? The number of tables that a server is being given, is that realistic for them to be able to tend to them and to provide the kind of service that all of your clients expect to have, for the kind of service that you as a business owner, as their manager, want them to have, the kind of experience that you want everyone to have. So be sure to ensure that the workload is realistic. Setting boundaries to maintain a work-life balance. One of the things that I have noticed with some of our clients is that employees are feeling that, particularly those who are hourly basis, right? They're feeling that their boss, their manager is checking in with them after hours, asking them questions, texting them after hours, and even emailing. Even though you are not literally saying you must respond to this email, but even just them receiving an email after hours makes them feel like they have to respond, or they have to be prepared, for it in the morning. Particularly if your email says something like, hey, I'm looking for this assignment. Do you think you can have it for me first thing in the morning? Well, what does that mean? First thing in the morning sounds like, as soon as they arrive. And if their workday starts at 8 in the morning, for example, then it might mean that the employee feels that they have to work the night before to get that assignment completed, or perhaps even start their day a little bit earlier that morning. So just be aware of the way you send messages. One of the recommendations that I have made to several of my clients, and it has worked really, really well, is if you set a timer, there's a timing system, and my apologies, I don't remember what it's called, but particularly if you use Google for your email messaging, you are able to set your emails to be sent at a very specific time. So even myself, sometimes I need to send an email to a client or I'm working late. I don't want them to see that I'm messaging them at 10 o'clock at night or sometimes even 1 o'clock in the morning. It depends what I have going on. And so I don't want them to see that I've sent them an email at that time in the morning or that late at night. So what I do is I set it up so that my email goes out to them at 7:45 in the morning or 8:15 a.m. Sometimes even a little bit later, if I know what their workload looks like. I might even send it at 11 a.m. so that it gives them time to take care of their morning responsibilities, and then they can later focus on my email. So take a look at that. Make sure that you use systems that will help you create a work-life balance that makes sense for both you and your team members. And we can go on to the next one. So with how do we help your employees manage stress, right? So again, be sure to put mental health as a top priority. Businesses should encourage their employees to look after their well-being through digital wellness awareness or regular check-ins that aren't as formal. What I have also received from some of the employees is that, when their employers do their performance evaluation check-ins on an annual basis, or even every 6 months, that it just seems so formal. It seems like they, are just there to check off some items and tell the employee what they're doing wrong, tell the employee where they need to improve, and let the employee know whether or not they will be receiving a pay increase. And what employees are looking for, they're looking for regular check-ins. So what I've been recommending is that you do, once you have a new hire, you bring them on, you do a 30, 60, and 90-day check-in. And if during that time, particularly because most employers actually have a 90-day introductory period, what a lot of people also recognize as probationary period, but introductory period is really what it is. So what it does is that it allows you to check in with your team members at 30 days, 60 days, and 90 days, let them know how well they're doing, let them know where they might need improvement. It allows you to recognize where they need a little bit more training and where they are already excelling, and you can let them be hands-on on their own, where you don't have to give a lot of oversight. And then once they complete that period, then, go into 6 months, once they've reached their 6 months, check in with them again, ask them how they're doing, ask them how, if there's anything that they can recommend to improve the processes and procedures of the work that they are doing. Again, remember we talked earlier about asking them for their opinion, engaging them. This is all part of that process. This is what will actually help you be able to engage them and re-engage them in many cases if your employees have been with you for longer than a couple of years, right? How do you re-engage them? You ask them, hey, you know what? We have a new team member starting. Can you provide the training for this new hire? So that's how you re-engage your employees, to asking them to lead a particular conversation or a meeting. That's another way to help them. But even with those check-ins that you would be doing, what you want to do is, you can develop your team. You can help them identify a career path with some goals and some actionable tasks. Some of our clients, what they're doing is they have quarterly goals now, so that they could have those regular check-ins with their team members. And by having quarterly goals, what it does is that it gives both you and your employee an opportunity to feel like you're actually accomplishing something on a short basis, right? And so this is very helpful to team members because now they feel like, oh, okay, I can see how I'm making a difference in the work that I'm doing now. I have a goal and I see the numbers, that are improving. So this is all definitely something that can help. The other thing is to, invite them to meetings where they can provide their input and make a difference. Invite them to meetings where they're actually able to just participate. And for example, I have one client who has situations where they give visits, they have visitors who come and check out the facilities to see if it's a place where they want to rent to do a town hall meeting or to do a walkthrough, to have an event or some kind of a training. And so what they have them do now is that some of their other team members are now walking through with the individuals. They're learning about, what type of sessions potentially they can have there. So this helps them learn a little bit more about the business. This is a way that will definitely help you engage your team members. There will be no change in quiet quitting if companies don't help employees feel valued and learn how to manage realistic expectations. The next screen, please. So it's been said that one of the key reasons for quiet quitting is that team members don't have a sense of purpose, and they put their time and do not. Pardon me. They put in their time and do nothing more because they don't feel part of being something special, right? And so it's up to leadership to establish the company's mission and the core values, and to instill that sense of purpose throughout the organization. They need to feel that what they do does make a difference beyond picking up a paycheck. You can begin through meaningful conversations with your direct reports and explain how their work contributes to the company's larger purpose. One of the things that I encourage my clients to do is to also create and develop your company's mission and core values. What many employers have done is that when they onboard their new hires, they share with them what their company mission is. They talk about their core values. And even before they become a new hire, as you're going through the interview process, you can share your company mission, talk about your core values, ask the candidates about their core values as well, how they like to make a difference. And this will help you determine whether or not this would be a good candidate that fits with your company culture. This is very important to be able to do right from the beginning. And if you begin to create that sense of purpose from the beginning, even before they are hired, what will happen is that that potential employee will come in full force, committed to your organization, to your business, to serving your clients, and you're definitely going to see a difference. You want to have those meaningful conversations with them, ask them how they're doing, ask them if there's anything else that they can contribute, and tell them how they are making a difference. I have one client who, for example, they support injured workers and they provide vocational training to their injured workers. And the injured workers, once they go through the process of vocational training, they are so elated, they're so happy about the support that they've received from their training, that they let the employer know the difference that they've made. So what you want to do is share that with your employees. Let them know, by the way, the vocational training that you gave to Ralph has made a difference for him. He is now, working in a new company, super excited. As a result, he was able to purchase a new home, or as a result, he was able to send, his kids to private school, or even something as simple as a result of having that new added confidence, They were able to purchase a refrigerator. So again, everything that they do, and if it makes a difference, let your team members know. It's going to help them feel that what they are doing is making a difference. Remember that it is okay to address employee mishaps. However, it's more empowering to acknowledge their impact. And with that is where I want to leave you with. I want to leave you with that again. And I'm going to share that one more time. It's okay to address employee mishaps. However, it's more empowering to acknowledge their impact. And that completes my session today, but I do want to, if we go to the next slide, let you know that we do have some time for your questions. If you have any specific questions, I'm happy to address them at this time.
Carmen, thank you so much. Wonderful presentation, right on time, very, very poignant. My takeaway is, as I was listening to you and just the points that you covered were part of, I guess, maybe our culture in the last 30 years has been such rapid culture, breakneck speed, profit, that we forgot the human component. And we've kind of now are coming into a culture, a new generation that is more sensitive, more emotional, and we need to kind of increase in our awareness of empathy, caring, which I think we kind of lost in the race to get that paper chase.
Mm-hmm.
I think you hit it right on the head. Maybe you could talk, I know it's a long subject, but
Mm-hmm.
what are workers looking, when you say life balance, that everybody's using that term, that's another
Yes.
buzzword. What would you say in a synopsis? What does that mean? Life balance?
Absolutely. What it means for employees, right? And it means something different for everyone. But from my perspective and what I'm hearing from employees is that for them, it means that they want to be able to come to work, do the job that they're hired for, and be able to go home on time and focus on whatever it is that they have going on in their private lives. They don't want to feel like they have to take work home, or, like if they're receiving those emails, those text messages from their employer, like they have to respond to it in that moment. And so what they're looking for is just to be able to get the work done. And that's a big shift, right, Javier, from what we remember years ago too, because, and it's not that it was expected either. It's just that for some reason, that's just the kind of level of commitment that we have or had, where we did, we would stay a little bit longer. And it didn't mean that we weren't being paid overtime. It just, employees are just no longer willing to work those extra hours. They want to get some rest. There are a lot of outside activities that help people just, relax. I saw this more so after COVID-19. During and after COVID-19, what we saw is that employers were losing their employees and even some of their best employees to other jobs that were less stressful, less demanding, jobs that required them, that didn't require them to manage other employees. So people are just looking to be more restful, have a clear mind, be able to take a walk in the morning or in the afternoons. The other thing around work-life balance is that employees are looking for opportunities where they can be flexible in their time. What I'm getting from candidates who are applying for, even when the positions are remote positions, right? Even when they get to work from home from 8 to 5, for example, what they're asking now is, can I break up my hours throughout the day? Like, can I start at 9 a.m. to 12 and then have, like 12 to 2 p.m., a break, and then start again at 2 o'clock and work to 4 o'clock. And then, my last hour or two, from 6 to 7, or can I work in the evenings and early mornings? So they're asking for flexibility, and that's what work-life balance means for different people. Flexibility to be able to accomplish the work that is assigned to them within their time restrictions or within the things that they want to do. Because a lot of employees are working from home now, and particularly if they have young children, what they're also asking for is, my child goes to daycare, for example, from 9 to 12, I can work from 9 to 12, and then I can start working again from 4 p.m. to 7 p.m. when my spouse, is home from work, or when my older children, are home from school. And so those are some of the asks that employees are making. If I hope that answered your question, Javier, but I'm happy to.
No, excellent. I want to see, I know we have Alfonso, kind of want to bring him in, chime in, because it's the same thing as, especially people that are A-driven, what we call driver personality, sometimes says thank you and the affirmation, we miss it. And I'm including myself, I'm pointing at myself right now. Maybe Alfonso, you could talk a little bit about in that part of that emotional intelligence. How does the driver, a lot of business owners are drivers, how do we understand other people's emotions?
Well, Javier, I think Carmen, you said it really well. COVID changed everything. There was a lot of loss during COVID. And so a lot of employees started wondering what's really important. What's really important in life, and I'm working, getting paid for 40 hours, getting overtime, etc. But man, I just lost my brother or my sister or my mom or my kids, and I didn't spend a lot of time with them. And so time became so valuable, and that sense of control as well. During COVID, we lost control completely. I mean, we didn't know what was going to happen tomorrow. We didn't know anything. And so now there's a sense of wanting to have some control over at least the hours that I work during the day. It doesn't seem like a big ask anymore after what we've all gone through. And I think part of this quiet quitting is really just putting some limits and boundaries where I'm seeing that I wish I would have had those in the past. And I've seen my parents, maybe for the younger people, and not seeing the benefit of giving my all because I don't know what's going to happen and I want part of my life back. And so part of the emotional intelligence piece is to be able to see those cues in our employees of what's happening and to be able to find a solution before it's too late. And I love, Carmen, what you said about employers being able to make the employees feel wanted. Just think about a regular relationship that we have with our children, for example. We can't tell them what to do and what to do and what to do and what to do without giving them some accolades, some, I love you, some this type of things in our home life, right? So in our work life, that's not to that point, but it's, what value do you bring to this place? Thank you for doing your job. Because of what you did, we're able to do this. It's just this sense of control, a sense of that I'm valued, and a sense of I want to go to work. And that's possible to do. It's possible to make our workplaces a place where young people will want to come because this is a place that they feel supported.
Excellent. And just, we got like about 5 minutes, but we could probably go on for 5 hours. This is just a fascinating, very intense conversation in terms of that. But I want to talk about, maybe we can close with, Alfonso and then Carmen can Carmen was saying the right things, and maybe you can, Alfonso, kind of bring it together in a culture that is fragmented that we have today. And there's a lot of needs and a lot of dysfunction. There's a word called shepherding in business now. It's becoming more and more popular. What can we do as employers to be more, instead of the boss, be more of a shepherd, to really then be able to get the quality and bring out the quality in these workers that maybe are having fragmented lives outside of work. So maybe we'll start with Alfonso, and then we're going to finish with Carmen on that, and that's how we'll close.
Sure. Just really quick. The key is to work on ourselves, and that's it. You know, if I'm not able to see what is happening, it's because I can't see it. Just the way we have training to do the things that we do in all of our industries, or else we wouldn't know what to do. The same thing is within relationships. And so again, this emotional intelligence is the ability to be able to see what's happening in my company, what's happening on my team, what's happening around me, so that I can make the changes. But to do that, I have to know. And so it's a matter of learning how to read these types of emotions. Again, we're looking at the soft skills as opposed to the hard skills. The soft skills really are the basis to be able to get things going. It's that impulse to get the train going without a jolt so that everybody drops their food. It's this smooth getting moving and maintaining that movement.
Wonderful. Carmen, you want to close?
Yes, thank you. And one of the things that has come up, you know, as it relates to shepherding, you know, and it is that when you put other people first, you have more success in your own life. And so shepherd leaders genuinely care about their people. And so what does this mean? This means that the more you treat your employees like customers, the more they will support you and your business, and the more your business will succeed. And I think that's one of the most important pieces here, is that let's treat our employees like they're our customers too, because they keep coming back, right?
Wonderful. Awesome way to end. Thank you so much for your participation, Carmen and Alfonso and Richard. Want to thank Maile for putting this together. I'm working on this affirmation. Hopefully I'm doing a better job. So thank you all, and for those that have joined us today. It'll be on YouTube probably in the next 2 days. A lot of great stuff. Thank you guys once again for everyone for joining us, and hopefully you walked away with just a little bit richer today. Blessings to all, and have a great rest of your day. Once again, thank you.